Welcome into Rockets Today, presented by Prize Picks. I have a special guest on today's show, but before we get going, make sure to join me for my live show tomorrow night, Rockets Lakers. We are going to be going live here on the channel. Make sure to tune in for tomorrow's show by hitting that subscribe button and turning on your notifications. Welcome into Rockets Today. We have a very special guest on the program today. Will, also known as Biased Houston, in the building. I would say one half of the what is Rockets Twitter, what is Rockets, Rockets content creators out there. I'm really excited to have you on the show. Welcome in, Will.
Thank you for having me. I was looking forward to doing this, so appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, obviously, this is actually our first time meeting face to face. So I did want to ask you a couple questions about your Rockets fandom. When did you when was the start for you? Like, what team, what Rockets squad were you like, that's like my squad? Like, that's what really got you into it?
I mean, I've always, because I'm from Houston, so I would always go to the games when I was younger, and I like my earliest memories were, I'm gonna age myself here, was the Kevin Martin, Louis Scola, Aaron Brooks days. Like, that's the first team that I really remember like watching. I wouldn't say I fell in love with the Rockets until James Harden got here, though. That's kind of what got me over the
Yeah.
top, was watching the James Harden era.
Oh yeah, I like maybe aging myself. I think we're probably around the same age, I guess, because I remember my first game that I went to is LeBron and the Heatles came down, and it was that game where I think Kevin Martin and a couple other guys went for 30. The Rockets still lost, but it was that I fell in love with the Rockets like at an
Yeah.
early age, like you, and just being from the city of Houston, you know. I wasn't around for the championships in the 90s. I was born right after that. So like I feel like I'm like still trying to catch that, championship high of like watching the Rockets go win
Yeah.
it all. I really do feel like, I don't know how you feel, Will. Those Rockets teams that ran into the Warriors in those Western Conference finals, like it's like if we didn't go up against the best team of all time, like the Rockets get a chip in those years. Like, do you agree or?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No, we would have, especially 2018. That's the year that I'll be telling my grandkids about. That was the year they got away from us. So we definitely should have won that one if Chris Paul didn't get hurt. Refs kind of do some interesting theatrics in that game 7, and
Yeah.
obviously we were up against probably the greatest team ever. So, yeah, no, absolutely, we should have won. That was the year.
Final question before we get into my Prize Picks lineups, and then we're going to break down this Rockets Lakers series. Who would be on your Rockets Mount Rushmore?
So okay, so that's a question. Is this my or the because that's two different questions. Like the
Oh,
Rockets Mount Rushmore,
your
but
your
mine. Okay,
Mount
so this is
Because I feel like if
all
we're
right.
going
So
like the Rockets, like we're both putting Hakeem Olajuwon on there.
yeah,
We're both guys who we haven't maybe seen play for this team. I want to
yeah,
know like your
absolutely.
time watching the Rockets. What's your Rockets Mount Rushmore?
Yeah. So people are gonna get mad. I am going to leave Hakeem off of it, not because he's the greatest Rocket of all time. I just wasn't even born to watch him play. I did not get to see Hakeem play. I've watched documentaries. I watched the games back. Didn't watch it live, so I'm going to exclude Hakeem Olajuwon from this list. But James, I've never done this before. This is, and is it 4? Is that how many I get? Is it 5?
Four.
4. Okay, so James for sure. Chris Paul. I'm gonna throw Min Thompson on there. And then number PJ Tucker. There you go, PJ
Okay.
Tucker.
Okay. Love it. And speaking of, getting your top 4 in there, I did want to show you my Prize Picks lineup for tomorrow's game. Today's show is presented by Prize Picks. Use that code HMA, get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. For tomorrow's game, I just want you to tell me what you're thinking about the picks that I made in this one. I got Alperen Şengün going for a double-double. What do we think about that? You think that's a good pick or?
He should definitely get a double against the Lakers.
Yeah, I mean, my thought is you're going up against DeAndre Ayton, you're going up against Jackson Hayes. The points, that doesn't worry me at all.
He might get a triple double.
I mean, I was gonna say he might get it with assists. Like he might
Yeah.
get the points and assists before he gets the rebounds because he's kind of like working that high post time to time, distributing from that area. My next one I went with Amen Thompson, 23 and a half points and assists combined. Last time we saw him out on the court, he put up a career high up against the Timberwolves in a loss. But, I think especially with Luka Reaves out, like I think 23 and a half points and assists is definitely doable.
That's
And
free.
I'm like, Amen Thompson. I mean, we're having problems if he doesn't get to 23 and a half points and assists. And then my last one, I went with LeBron, 2.5 3-pointers. Might be tough, but you're also thinking like, who else is scoring the basketball for that, Los Angeles team?
Yeah. Yeah. No, he's gonna be for sure taking the most shots on the team. I don't know if he hits 3 of them, but he gonna take a lot of shots.
So that is one of my demon picks. That's what the red is right next to him.
Yeah.
That means it's a little bit tougher. But Will, you can follow me on Prospects. Y'all can too out there. With the new social feed tab, Jeremy Chugs. Also, make sure to use our code HMA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. All right, let's get into this breakdown of this Rockets Lakers series. And I feel like the discussion has to start with the injuries. We just talked about it. Luka Doncic, Austin Reaves. Depending on who you talk to, they're either out for the entire series or they might be back for game 3. And I talked on my show the other day. There's a guy who, I follow for a lot of football stuff, is Pro Football Doc. He said it's much more likely for Reaves to come back than Luka Doncic due to their injuries, having the upper body injury with the oblique rather than the hamstring where you're kind of planning and, pushing off that leg. Obviously I think we both know like Luka would be more important to this team, but, without these guys, is there any way the Rockets, falter this series? Like if they're both out, like is there any way?
There it should be impossible. I mean, now I don't. If it's one thing Houston sports will do is we'll find a way to lose something that we're not supposed to. So I don't want. I've been traumatized too many times between the Texans and the Rockets to like put it past us. But no, we should. If there is no Luka or Reeves at any point in time, we should probably sweep them. If we're being honest, or gentlemen sweep them.
Now, if it's not Luka, but it's Reaves that's coming back, and he comes back game 3 or game 4, does that scare you at all for this team, or do you think it's like that's not as big of a upgrade as a Luka is, so we should still be fine?
Yeah, I think we could. I think we could win the series even if those guys were healthy. I think that it would have been an uphill battle, and I probably would have said the Lakers would have been the favorites in that series. So I'm not saying that the Rockets would have won, but I think it would have been possible for us to beat them if they were healthy. So if 1 or 2 of them are out, I think I just like us in that series. I think we match up pretty well with them. I think we can take advantage of. We're more athletic than them. We're gonna kill them on the glass. Like I said, outside of Luka and Reeves, LeBron goes out. I think we just have the better roster. So
Yeah.
No, we should handle them.
So obviously, no Luka, no Reeves. At least, from my understanding, at least for the first 2 games. Like game 3, game 4. I know Luka came back from Madrid yesterday, according to multiple reports from Mark Stein. Austin Reaves, he was at practice on Thursday, not with the team, but was just putting up free throws by himself with a couple of the trainers. With those 2 guys out, who do the Rockets need to really focus on this roster? Obviously, besides LeBron James, we all know, even old age LeBron James still does, worry me a little bit. Some people think he's the GOAT. Some people, obviously that debate with MJ. But besides LeBron, what other guys do the Rockets need to focus on and be like, we can't let this guy beat us?
This is going to be a weird answer to that question. It's not a player. It's JJ Redick. I think that he's the Lakers X factor in this series. Because no disrespect, but with no Luka, with no Reeves, the second best player on that team, not outside of LeBron, is like Rui Hachimura or God forbid DeAndre Ayton, and like NBA players obviously, but they're not. if you're going into a playoff series and you're having a toss up between Rui Hachimura and DeAndre Ayton as your second best player, you're in for some trouble. So I think the better like X factor for the Lakers is JJ Redick and his coaching. And we saw when we saw the Lakers and we saw them two times consecutively to end the season, and they beat us both times. And a huge reason for that was I thought JJ Redick just outcoached Ime Udoka, especially in that first game and then the first half of the second one. I think in that second half, Ime kind of figured out something that worked really well for the Rockets, but it was a little too late by then. So yeah, I think for the Lakers, it's just like I said, it's about what adjustments does JJ do? How does he try to make the game more difficult for us? And then we know he's going to adjust. That's one thing he's really good at. How does Ime counter to JJ Redick's adjustment? I think that's kind of the biggest like chess match within the game itself.
So kind of going off what you were just talking about there, is this a make or break series for Ime? Like round one, like you get like the team finished with the same record this year, even though like the West got a little bit better. So instead of the 2 seed, you're the 5 seed this year. But I mean, Ime, like he has his critics, even inside Houston as well, around like, is he really making this team better? Or is he holding them back? You know, if the Rockets lose this series, is there a chance that they move on from Udoka? Or well, like, what are your thoughts on that?
So I don't know. I think that Udoka's seat is pretty safe. Now, that is before he would lose what would be I think this Rockets Lakers series is the only series that has this big of a gap in like betting odds. Like I'm pretty sure that we are the most favorite team. The Lakers are the most favorite team to lose in the first round series right now. It's not particularly close. And so like Udoka's not being in the hot seat is going into a series where he is the overwhelming favorite. So like I do think that that seat might warm up a little bit if he blows this series somehow, some way, because we
Mhm.
should not lose. Like I said, now obviously that would change if like Luka and Reeves magically reappeared mid-series. But like we're kind of assuming that at least one of those two guys probably won't play, and if the other one does play, it's probably gonna be a bit hobbled. We should win the series. So if we lose it, I do think that internally that seat might heat up. For me, I think that would be a yeah, this may not be the guy. And for the record, I'm not even close to out on Ime. I think he has his flaws. You know, I think as does a lot of coaches in the NBA. But no, I still think he's a great coach. I still think he's the coach for this team moving forward. But yeah, if you somehow blow this series when we are the massive favorites, I mean,
I mean,
Ime don't go, somebody do.
you know better than anybody if somehow the Rockets do, you know, just absolutely fumble this series, Rockets Twitter will be on fire around Ime Udoka. Like the pitchforks will be out. Everybody's gonna have those lanterns out. Everybody will be going after Ime Udoka if the Rockets can't get out of round one this year up against the Lakers. You know, going on to the Rocket side now, I think, you know, just from watching games this year, I feel like a lot of people, whenever I ask this question about who the X factor is, I always get 3 answers. And, you know, it's usually not the big three. It's usually not Amin Thompson, Shingun, or KD. It's usually between Jabari, Reed Shepard, and Tari Eason. So I'm going to ask you about those 3 guys. Out of those 3, who do you think needs to step up the most, and who do you think will step up the most in this series?
Funny enough, I think the answer to that question is the same person. I think it's Jabari. Who you know, I guess I've come under some flack for recently for how I've analyzed his season, but I do think that he is the Rockets X factor. I think that you go look at the games where Jabari plays well, we don't lose them. Like it's usually like the games where he struggles that those are the ones we lose. But if Jabari's out there making his threes and attacking closeouts decisively, we really don't lose. And I think that like JJ Redick, you can't game plan to shut off fourth, fifth options, right? You can game plan to make Katie's life hard. You can send traps him off screens, right? You can put like a big on the min Thompson, hope that slows him min Thompson down. You can say, hey, well, when Chingu's in the post, we're gonna wall up, maybe send two to him as well, right? You game plan for the stars. You typically don't game plan for like say the fourth or fifth option. So if your fourth or fifth option is making the most out of the defensive attention that JJ's going to throw at Katie, at Amin, at Shingun. If Jabbar's taking the best advantage of that, I really don't see how we lose. And I think that kind of goes beyond just this Lakers year. I think that kind of speaks in general, right? Like I think we're a very tough team. If you know going into any game, Jabbar is good for let's say like 18 points and he'll shoot like 39, 40% for three. If you knew you were getting that from Jabari every single night, I'd say we actually stack up pretty well with anybody.
Yeah.
And I actually think within this series, Jabari, because he played pretty well in the Warriors playoff series last year. I think that he is someone who kind of does rise to the occasion. Um, and I expect him. I think his volume kind of goes down a little bit, but I think because the volume goes, I think his efficiency goes up. So I actually do expect him to play pretty well this series.
Yeah, I've talked about, whenever Jabari is on, I think this team is at another level because, he's obviously good on the defensive end, good rebounder, but if he has that threat of, hitting the 3-point shot on the wing or in the corner, that kind of opens everything up. That you can't just go ahead and double KD every single time. Going to the other two guys I mentioned, I still want to ask you about Shepherd. I still want to ask you about Eason. So first, I'm going to ask you a little bit about Reed Shepherd. There's been critics being like, why is Ime not just have him in the starting lineup? I believe he only started 22, 23 games this season
Yeah,
for the
sounds about
Rockets.
right. I think it was like, yeah, sounds about right.
Do you think he is an answer for this team moving forward at the point guard spot? And then two, I think the biggest kind of critique of him is in crunch time, like late in game situations. So do you think he's our point guard moving forward? And do you trust him at the end of games to help this Rockets team close it out?
Yeah, I think he is the answer long term. I think he should have started more games this season. As someone who is generally positive on Ime Udoka, I think that's one area that he could have improved in. I think we should have, if not started Reed more, he definitely should have played more. I think there was a lot of times this season where our lack of ball handling and shooting kind of costed us in crunch time, and those are two things that Reed Shepherd does pretty well. And so yeah, I think that he is. I think he should start this series. I don't think he's going to. I think it's going to be a Kogi. But yeah, I think long term, I think he is someone who this Rockets team can look at and say, I think you fit really well next to a man, next to Shingun. Like I said, in terms of the ball handling, in terms of the shooting. And I'm sorry, what was the second question you asked me? I'm sorry.
Just close out of games. Like, do we think Reed Shepherd is somebody who, like, final 2 minutes of the fourth quarter, Rockets up by 4?
Yeah,
Do you trust him with the ball in his hands?
I trust him to well, one. I don't trust a lot of guys on this team with the ball in their hands in crunch time, but Reed is in that group that I do trust because I think that he's very self-aware of who he is. So you don't really see too many possessions where he goes rogue and like tries to like force the issue. He's very self-aware of like who he is, where he is at this point in his career, the role he needs to play for this team to win. So I don't have to, if the ball's in the sense I'm not questioning, is he even try to make a hero play and, hurt himself, hurt the team doing so. But the other thing too is he is one of the highest IQ players on the team. So even though he's not, like I said, forcing the issue, he typically is making the smart decision with the basketball, whether it's setting up Kevin Durant or getting the ball to Alp in the post, or if nothing else, recognizing, hey, I don't have it, I'm gonna go stand in the corner in space. And so, like, I do trust him. I think just the threat of having him out there too, like, it's another thing about him that kind of separates him from a lot of the role players we have on this team. Defenses don't leave Reed. He gets guarded like the guy who shoots 40% from three. So just having him out there opens the court up more for KD and Shingun in crunch time to be able to make something happen. You don't have to worry about them being doubled as much. And if you do get doubled, it's a 40% shooter open now. So, I would play Reed more. I would close with him.
Nothing quite hits like a 35-foot Reed Shepherd 3-pointer in crunch time. Hopefully we see some of those this year. And then I did also want to ask you about Tari, because that's somebody who, the Rockets didn't end up giving him that long-term extension. And, looking forward, do we think that he's going to be somebody who, the way he plays in this playoffs is going to determine whether or not he's a Houston Rocket, for years to come? Or like, how do you view Tari Eason in this series, and then moving forward, like the Rockets in a year or 2 years down the road?
Yeah, that's tough. Because sans him having just an abysmal series, I don't think him playing poorly hurts too much of what they plan for him long term. I think they kind of already know what they're looking for with Tari, moving forward. So I would imagine that, like I said, sans him just being just atrocious, I don't think nothing would change that. I do think that a good playoff series would help. I think it's one of those situations where, if you overperform, if you were one of the bigger reasons why we win the series, I do think that's something that can kind of because he didn't have this. I would imagine if Tari was honest, he didn't have the season he wanted to have. And so I would imagine that a big playoff run would be something that kind of supplant what he did not do in the regular season in terms of getting that contract that he would want. So I do think that like I said, I don't think as long as he's not terrible, I don't think it hurts him. But I do think it can help him if he's really good in the playoffs.
Now, if on the flip side, if he plays tremendously, if he somehow gets the Rockets to the Western Conference
Yeah.
Finals, do you think he plays himself out of being able to be re-signed by the Rockets and maybe gets big money elsewhere?
No, I would be surprised. I mean, obviously, if Tari just becomes a superstar overnight, I mean, sure. But the other thing too is even if he does that, like the Rockets have, he's a restricted free agent, so we can match whatever comes his way. So even if what I'm saying he becomes Kawhi Leonard in the playoffs overnight, like we would have the ability to re-sign him. But just being realistic here, I would be surprised if a team threw a big payday at Tari right now just because he did not have the season that you'd want to see from him. And I don't mean no disrespect when I say this at all, but he is someone who is trending towards that of just being a role player, a good one, albeit he trends like he's going to be a good role player, but a role player nonetheless. So with the way like the CBA works and stuff like that, if you have role players making big, because it will require someone to overpay for him to lead the
Yeah.
Rockets. So for you to overpay for someone who is no disrespect probably going to be a role player, like you're looking at like that's less money on the back end for like an actual star, or less flexibility if you want to move on from that contract somewhere down the line. So I would be surprised if somebody overpaid him.
Yeah.
Most of them don't even have cap space right now. Like I think those teams that really do are like the Nets, and I think the Wizards might have had cap space before they traded for Anthony Davis and Trey Young. So I mean, like it's not that many teams that will have cap space this summer, even to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
mean, we big series for Tari, and we'll see kind of how he goes moving forward. Um, before we started the show, you were saying like we're excited for the playing games tonight. We're excited for that. Obviously, your guy Brad out. He tweeted out something that I was like, this is like exactly what he kind of read my mind of. The NBA script. We all joke about the NBA script, and kind of the idea of Jaylen Green last year, the Rockets 2 seed, they lose in round one to the Warriors, and
Yep.
I'm not going to say that's the reason why he ended up getting traded away for Kevin Durant. Like if the Rockets make round, or if they go to round two, maybe they still trade him away, maybe they don't, but maybe a little poetic justice that he's on his new team and is in a do or die game against the Golden State Warriors. So
Yep.
what are you looking for in that game?
I mean, it's what you just said. I am excited because I want to see how he responds. I mean, it is
Mhm.
a 1 game sample, so like I don't like form too many definitive conclusions off of 1 game because I
Mhm.
mean we've seen guys have great 1 games and they're not so great the next games. I mean, shoot, Jaylen Green in last year's playoffs, great game too, not so much the rest of the series. So I don't like I want to with Jalen specifically, I want to see it more consistently. But that being said, like I do think a step in the right direction would be he played pretty solid in the first playing game. That was not his fault actually. It was not even close to his fault that they lost that game against the what team was it, bro? Why am I drawing a blank? It was the Blazers.
Blazers.
They
Denny
yeah,
of Dio went off for 40.
yeah. I was saying Devin Booker didn't hold up his end of the bargain. So like that wasn't Jalen played well, he played more than well enough for them to win that game. And so like now going into the second game where number one, this is against the team that put him out in the playoffs last year. It's a huge reason why he got traded. And like I said, he didn't play that well against that team. But then number two, it is kind of the thing with Jalen where it's like the story of his career is he'll have a monster game. Next game he won't do it. It's like the tale of two stories. 1 game he's great, 1 game he's not so great. And so I'm kind of interested in seeing like, okay, how do you follow up that pretty good game against the Blazers? How do you follow it up? Let alone against a team that had your number last year, put you out, and like I said, this is it. You lose this game, your season's over with. So this is a game 7 elimination type game for Jalen Green. So no, I'm like I am extremely excited to see what that looks like.
And I follow you on Twitter, and I kind of follow along with kind of you throughout the game as well. And before the Rockets Suns game, the first matchup between the Rockets and Jaylen Green, you tweeted out something. I was like, it's gonna be so weird for the first time in my life rooting against Jaylen Green. One, how was that like? And two, do you still sort of like in tonight's game, like do you still sort of root for him, like want him to do well? Being somebody who the Rockets selected number 2 overall, was with this team for like a good amount of time. Like what is your like fan process with Jaylen Green right now?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was like you said, it was weird because I've watched Jalen play Suns games this year. I tend to tune in. I've watched a lot of Suns games this year actually, so I've seen him play before then, but that was the first time where he played, and it wasn't just like okay, like whatever happens happens. Like no, I actually need him to play bad tonight because he's on the opposing team, and
Yeah.
so that was a little interesting for me. The with Jalen tonight, and I guess my rooting interest it's kind I gotta have two ways to look at it. Like as a person and like because Jalen was great for Houston, right? The
Mhm.
person, Jalen Green, the human being, charity events. You know what I'm saying? Gave back to our community all the time. He was not the type of person you have to worry about showing up late to practice or being a professional. Like he held up his end of the bargain as a person in
Mhm.
Houston. And so like I never will say I want that person to fail. Um, but I did get a little salty taste in my mouth because of how poorly he ended his last couple of games in Houston.
Mhm.
And I did think trading him was the right decision. And what I don't like or what I don't want to happen is I don't want him to go on and break out. And it's like, ah man, like we traded that guy. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things where it's like I want him to succeed, but to a point, and that sounds nasty to say. So like I don't even like saying that, but like but I'll say this. We have the Suns picks in next year in 2029.
Mhm.
Just be terrible in those 2 years. You can be good after that, but
Breakout 2028 year.
yeah, break out after that. So
Yeah, I mean it was hard for me because I'm like last year, I chat sports, we got like 35, of my coworkers were all in the same building. And obviously when you got 35 people, all sports fanatics, we get into some heated debates sometime. And the amount of times that I had to defend Jalen Green last year that he's not a over from this is my coworker Smitty Tyler Smith. If you're watching, this is exactly a quote from him. A overvalued AAU player is what he called him all of last year. And the amount of just defending I had to do, like I still feel like a part of like a Jalen Green defender a little bit of
yeah,
he's good. Like maybe he's not a one or a two on a championship team. Maybe he needs to be that third option right now. Maybe he can grow into a number two option. But I still feel like that back of my mind, like the need to defend Jalen Green. I don't know if you feel that way too, but so um for this series between the Suns and the Warriors, what is your predict or for this playing game between the Suns and the Warriors? What's your prediction, and does it even matter? Because obviously they're going to be going up against the
okay, see,
like
yeah.
what who do you think wins tonight, and do they even give the Thunder 5 games?
The to answer the second question first, yeah, they don't get past five. If that, it might be a sweep, no matter who wins. But if if Warriors, Suns, both of them going home in no more than 5 games, but I actually might lean the Warriors here just because they are a lot more experienced in this version of the Suns. Um, and Draymond Green is so good defensively still, and Steph Curry is still so good. Um, just in general, like I think they have two qualities that are just better than anything the Suns have. And then, unfortunately, if Jalen Green's career is any indication here, it's good game, bad game. So there's probably a bad game coming up here. I probably lean the Warriors, but I think it's a close game, and I could see the Suns winning. But no, I pick the Warriors if I had to pick.
So is it between the Spurs and the Thunder in the West? Like, is there any other team that can battle to be the Western Conference champion this year, or is it a foregone conclusion? We think it's either going to be the Thunder or the Spurs.
I actually don't think the Spurs are the second best team in the West. I think the Nuggets are. I think the Nuggets are better than the Spurs, and I think a huge reason why we didn't get to see that consistently this year because they dealt with a lot of injuries. Aaron Gordon was out. I know Jokic missed some time. Peyton Watson's missed a lot of time. But when they're healthy, and which hopefully come playoff time they will be a bit more healthy than what they've been in the regular season. I think they are like I think they're a team that can actually give OKC a run for them. I have OKC coming out of the West and win the whole thing, but I do think that Denver will give them a real tough time. You remember they last year they took the Thunder to 7 games, and quite honestly, probably should have won that series. They kind of blew it, and they came back this season even better. They completely revamped their bench. Jamal Murray is playing. He's made his first All-Star game this year, so he's playing the best basketball of his career. Jokic is still the best player in the league, in my opinion. So I think the Nuggets are the second best team in the West, and I think they can really give the Thunder a run for their money.
I liked the move this past offseason of, kind of exchanging Michael Porter Jr. for Cameron Johnson this year. I think that was a real big move for the Nuggets going into this season. Now,
Absolutely.
it's a little bit, less clear in the Eastern Conference. Do you have a favorite team or teams that you think are going to be coming out of the East? Because, obviously the Pistons are the 1 seed, but the Pistons this year give me vibes of the Rockets last year, right? Like the Rockets were the 2 seed, but I feel like nobody really took the Rockets seriously to go far. And I kind of get the same vibes with the Pistons this year. Like I don't see a lot of like NBA analysts saying, "Oh yeah, the Pistons should be one of the favorites to come out of the East."
I think if the Pistons come out of the East, it's going to be because they drew the luck of the bracket. Well, I guess luck of the. I mean, they worked hard for the #1 seed all season, so they deserved it. But they won't have to see one of Boston or New York, who I think are the. If I had to like say who were the quote unquote 2 best teams, it probably would be one of or those 2 teams, Boston and New York, and they want to see either of them into the conference finals should they make it there. And like conventional wisdom tells me that Boston is the best team in the East, but then I remember that they're kind of banged up going into the playoffs, where like Jaylen Brown is kind of dealing with some Achilles injuries right now. Jason Tatum is back from, I want to say his wasn't Achilles, but he's still working his way back into game speed, so he's going into the playoffs not at 100% just yet either. And then this is a Knicks team that did beat them last year. So it's not like this is and they beat the Celtics even before Tatum went out injured. Like, this is a team that just beat the Celtics last year. So I could see a scenario where the Celtics don't even make it to the conference finals because they lose to the Knicks, and then Knicks versus Pistons. I can see the Pistons winning that series. So the East. I mean, it's going to be a good playoffs like on both sides of the bracket. Like I think this is going to be a great postseason. So anything can happen.
If you had to go Will Stradamus, look into your crystal ball, look into the future, what's the NBA Finals matchup, and who's hoisting that Larry O'Brien at the end of the year?
So I did this earlier today. I will pick the Pistons to come out the East, even though like my brain wants to say Celtics. I'm gonna say, like I said, the bracket. I'm gonna pick the Pistons. And I obviously have the Thunder coming out the West, and I have the Thunder beating the Pistons in like 5 games. I don't think it's going to be competitive.
Give me the Knicks out of the East.
I can see that.
And I think you're talking me into the Nuggets in the West, like getting back to the mountain.
I can see that too.
I think you just kind of – I was going to go Thunder kind of chalk, but I think you're talking me into a 3v3, 3 seed versus 3 seed series.
That'd be great basketball.
And – just for my boy Marshall, I'd like to see the Knicks win it.
Yeah. I would root for the Knicks next series as well.
New York would go crazy. Crazy. All right. Before we finish this episode, let the people know where they could find you, what you got coming up. This is your chance. What is it? ABP, always be plugging. Let us know what you got going on.
Yeah. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Bias Houston. The Brado and Will Show on YouTube, Rockets Collective on YouTube, and then the Right Read podcast on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, all that good stuff. So that's kind of mainly what I'm doing these days.
Okay. A busy man. I like it.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you taking some time out to, talk the series, preview it with me today on today's program. Hopefully we can get you back sometime.
Absolutely.
Maybe after the Rockets win it all this year. Maybe we do another,
do
another collab, but appreciate you being able to come on the show. And hopefully we get a good round 1 series from the Rockets. And we're talking happy about this team in about a week and a half.
That would be great.
All right. Hey, appreciate it, man.